let's have the conversation right now. And so let's go round and work out. Just now, and it doesn't, you can change your mind by this evening or tomorrow or next week.
Yeah.
But how would you feel about donating your organs?
No, does it happen after you die, or does it happen?
No, it has to be after.
you die.
So it doesn't happen like while you die.
Take your heart out while you're still living.
Because you said like the blood has to still be active.
It's like straight after.
No, you've got to give your consent before you die,
Yeah.
and then the organs are taken out, removed, as soon as you die.
So do you have to carry a
death
card?
has taken place.
Is that how it works? Or?
So now
this
this
is
is the
where-
next bit,
yeah.
right? So the law around organ donation changed this year, May 2020. Now, if you don't want to be a donor,
Previously, what was it?
So basically, previously it was that everyone was presumed not to be a donor, and you had to opt in.
i.e. carrying the card
You had to
and being on
decide
the
to
register
fill in the
and so
form,
on.
carry a card, show people that you're actually
That's where the card comes in. So you're opting in to say, when I die, I want my organs to go to other people.
to this sort of thing. Now, what's happening is that you have to opt out of the system. So it would be presumed that everybody wants to donate their organs, but you, why do you feel
I
that?
just did not know that.
What would normally happen is that the specialist nurse would come, she would speak to the family, find out what the family felt about it, and hopefully if they've had this sort of conversation, they will know that
What that
person
person's
wanted to
intent
donate or
was.
didn't want to
Yeah.
donate. But if they felt strongly that they didn't want to donate the family member's organs, then they wouldn't have to.
They could still.
So the right is still with the
yeah,
family.
the family can still.
Override
You
whatever.
can override. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so basically that's why it's important to have these conversations beforehand. So even if if my decision was that I wanted to donate my organs, but you were all, vehemently against it, you would at least know that was my dying wish that I wanted to do
Right.
it.
Okay.
And so but basically
But
it is after that conversation. That's a really important point, I think, that people know that there is still the option of actually,
And a significant part of the drive now is for people to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Because in the absence of a conversation like this in families,
Yeah.
nobody really knows, because people delay talking about it,
that's
and
right.
you think, oh, I'm going to die when I'm 60 or 80 or 90 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What if you have an accident and somebody passes away, when they're quite young, or let's say they're in their 40s or 50s?
Yeah.
So you can't wait until it's like a will. You shouldn't just presume that something will happen later on in life. You should have the conversation with people now, with your friends, family, loved ones, so people are at least aware of what your intention was. I mean, you may change your mind later on, and you can re-have that conversation. It's not like a fixed thing. You can always change your mind.
Yeah, you can.
But what the NHS is pushing is for people to have the conversation right now, so that people are aware of
So
this.
on that, let's have the conversation right now. And so let's go round and work out. Just now, and it doesn't, you can change your mind by this evening or tomorrow or next week.
Yeah.
But how would you feel about donating your organs?
No, I have a question though.
Yeah,
So for Muslims at the janazah, you would, I don't know what part it is, but when you bring the body home, would the body not have
So people that have
eyes and stuff?
Yeah, so people that have decided that actually they do want the organs missing, but they have a way. I mean, they do it in a very professional way. There's a responsibility that they do take care of the body, and they will, they know that families will want to see the deceased before, at that time of funeral. And so they will try and present the body in a way.
And these are experts. They're used to doing this.
That you can't see.
So imagine, when somebody dies, let's say somebody dies just randomly of a heart attack, right, at home or in the workplace or in their car, right? You may still have to have a post-mortem.
Yeah.
At which point certain parts of your organs will be removed. That's just by law, because if for example, even in hospital, like when my father passed away, he passed away in hospital, under complete supervision of a medical unit, but they still had to do a post-mortem on some of his organs just to ascertain the precise cause of death. Because your death certificate needs a cause of death. Everything like that has to be recorded. So it's very likely that a lot of people will be buried with parts of their organs missing. Nobody is buried not everybody is buried in a fully formed manner.
I just didn't realise that it was visible. I thought it was only like...
It's not going to be that visible.
Yeah.
Because obviously the deceased person's eyes are closed.
So for example, the eyes would just be
these
closed.
but also they're internal organs, aren't they? These are
mostly it's internal organs.
Yeah, you won't see
liver, heart, kidney, that sort of thing.
There's also an option about what you can donate as well, right? Like I remember when they came into school, you could say, I don't want to give my eyes, so you keep your eyes and things.
Okay, well,
so
that's
some people might be more sensitive about what they give.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Even for the families that...
Yeah, that's really interesting. I forgot actually, because when I filled in the form, there was that option, and I totally forgot about that. So you can actually choose. And
I think so.
I think that opening that possibility is actually really important as well, because there could be certain things that you're more sensitive about. And again, I'm not the most learned in this particular area, but my understanding is that actually the soul is separate from the physical body. And so when the soul, the ruh, leaves the body, then the physical parts that are left behind are, essentially lifeless, and there's nothing in them. And so my presumption would be that you don't feel the pain but there is this idea definitely of respecting the body, respecting the deceased, and not treating it in a bad way. So having no life in it means that it has no meaning, and so treating it very respectfully, with care, with love, is a really essential component of it.
I mean, as far from what I know about Islam, I mean, I've done a bit. I'm not a Muslim scholar, but I've done a lot of reading around this sort of area, and there are no clear prohibitions. Because something like organ donation didn't exist at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. There wasn't the scientific technology to be able to do that, to be able to transfer an organ from one person to another, and for that to be a sustainable operation. That just didn't exist. So if anybody tells you that organ donations are categorically prohibited, first of all, that just can't be ascertained in Islam, right? It didn't happen. The opportunity wasn't there, so that can't be a prohibition. Now there are a couple of teachings that are important. One is that you shouldn't disrespect the dead. So what used to happen in those days? Sometimes when there was a battle, and the army conquered, whichever army was conquered, the winning army would go around and they would chop off limbs from the dead just to humiliate the people further, that they've defeated them, and this would be a humiliation of that people.
Showing power.
So you can't, we can't do something like that. That's a clear prohibition. You can't burn bodies. Again, it's about respecting the dead. That sort of thing is prohibited. But people use that type of teaching to talk about organ donation. It's clearly a completely different thing. I would rather flip that and say that this is about saving lives. Islam tells us that to save the life of one person is like saving the life of the whole of humanity. Now, if you are dying, and the reason why we bury somebody is that person's body returns back to the earth. We are told that God created us from clay and that we will return to clay, earth, dust. Now, and even in Christianity they say ashes to, dust to dust, right? So, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a return of your body into the earth. Your body's just going to dissolve. It's meaningless. And if God wants to recreate, he will recreate whatever he wants. On the Day of Judgment, people are told that God will bring back the dead and so on. He will recreate whatever he wants. So none of this gets in the way of any of the Muslim theology around these issues, but on the contrary, you're helping people with something that you have no longer any use for.
Do Muslims not argue that you shouldn't have another organ put into another person's body?
I don't think anybody argues that. Because I've never heard of a person argue that they can't take an organ from someone else.
I've
No.
heard something like that as well. That you're not supposed to have someone else's organ in you
In
or
your
something.
body, yeah.
I've never heard that
I don't know
argument.
why.
Yeah,
And
because
I-
I mean, in fact, we've actively seen the opposite, that you've had families in situations where obviously they've got, dear ones that are at the brink of, in really difficult situations, they need kidney transplants, liver transplants, or even heart transplants, and they're desperately looking for organs. And I think naturally most people would be in that position, wouldn't they? That if you're worried and you feel that someone else can, you can save a life, then I think that would be.
And I think that's the ethical problem, is that that's the crux of it. If you're willing to take an organ to save your life, how can you not be willing to give an organ to save someone else's life?
I just thought they wouldn't want to accept other organs.
Well, that would be a more consistent. That would be a more consistent position.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
To
not
say,
heard that.
I don't want
There may
anything
be
to do with this
something,
whole transplantation business. I will neither give nor will I take.
Yeah, and I think this emphasis, as you say, on the saving of life is probably the strongest argument, that I've heard in Muslim communities, that, that it is saving the life of someone, and that has to come, before anything else. I think there are concerns about this idea that, hang on, if our organs are in different places, or different body parts are in different places, how will we then be raised on the day of judgment? How, there's sort of, I've heard people sort of talking about these sorts of concerns. But again, we've got, various narrations by the Prophet, peace be upon him, that indicate that actually wherever your body parts have been distributed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the power to be able to, reunite yourself. If God has brought you from dust, has brought you from nothing, then God has the ability to sort of bring you up, again from...
Is your body meant to be raised?
And again, that's the sort of complexity about all of these sort of philosophical conversations. Is it really your body that's being raised? Is it your soul being raised? And most people would actually say it's the soul anyway, so it doesn't really interfere with that human life form on earth, does
And
it?
the other question is about the body feeling pain. And we know that after, as you said earlier, after that would be the second objection. But we know that after death, the soul has gone, and the body no longer feels that sort of pain, because it's the soul that is actually tormented or pleased or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. But at this point, from what you're understanding, does anyone feel that they're in a position to sort of say that actually they would want their organs donated or not? Or
I feel like you should, but I don't know how. Like, I'm not saying like I'm not comfortable with it, but it does make.
Or if you're undecided, just
I definitely haven't decided my view. I've definitely not decided, but I feel like the right thing to do would be to let your organs be donated.
yeah,
I feel like I'm making the wrong decision if I said no.
yeah,
But I do think that if someone of the family were to have that, then I'd feel really uncomfortable with that idea.
yeah. Because what's your natural sort of thinking?
Because I just think that, I don't know, it's just strange to think that would the whole body be there, would everything in the body be there?
And for me, I've got a similar sort of thing, because for a long time it was this idea that will they feel pain? Will I feel pain? And it doesn't seem, it's nonsensical, because in my mind I know that it won't, but actually there is that emotional attachment and that understanding of it all. But actually the more I've thought about it, the more I've come to a point of thinking, actually, if I could benefit someone in doing this, then actually I would so want to. But I think that's a process that takes time, and I think that's a very natural reaction.
What do you think, Ibby?
I don't really see the negatives of it. Like, it's got so many positives, but I don't know.
And you're not bothered by, after you die, someone
I don't.
cutting into your body.
What if it's a member of
If you're not feeling it, then.
But what if one of us, would you be fine with them, like?
If you're not feeling it, then I don't see it.
Yeah. And for you, the overriding thing is that it's helping people then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same as you guys. I think my instinct would be to, obviously I want to help people, and I think if I was ever in a position where I would need an organ donation, it wouldn't be fair for me to accept something if I wasn't willing to. But I think where I would hesitate is, like you said, with family members and things, and how would you guys feel if my body was being donated, like parts of my body were being donated? I think that's where I would hesitate more.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I would have no problem at all with myself, for myself. I remember when I was a lot younger, in my teens, thinking something I really wouldn't want to do. And I don't know why. I think I was just uncomfortable with the idea of parts of me being missing.
Yeah.
Right.
But as I've
I've
grown older, I've recognised that if people are going to take organs,
Yeah.
it's only right that they're also willing to give organs. And I think if any member of my family needed a kidney transplant or a liver or a heart, I would do everything I can to try and find that match, find that person. People have bone marrow transplants. It's not just those big organs, it's other things as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So if it was something like that, I would, do whatever I can to find that. So then why would I want to stop that for someone else? And in a way also we know from Islamic teachings this idea of sadaqah jariyah. Now we normally, sadaqah jariyah we think of as a continuous charity, right?
Yeah.
Now we think of that as something money that you spend or knowledge that you teach or something like that. But this is also a form of legacy that you're leaving behind. Somebody's benefiting after your own death. Because normally we say when you die, that's the end of your deeds.
Yeah.
But here is somebody benefiting from something you've left behind, and I'm fairly confident that
you'd
be rewarded for that.
Something.
Or you're going to say something a bit?
Yeah, I just don't understand I don't understand the uncomfortableness of it, like that kind of area. Because I wouldn't really have a problem with donating mine or any of my families.
Yeah. Take them away.
I just
But
yeah.
So you've been able to sort of separate the fact that actually it's a physical life.
But I just don't know if when you're in the moment, I feel like it would be a lot harder to...
I can imagine.
I feel like it would be
appreciate
so
that.
traumatic for people.
I appreciate that.
But that's why the conversation is so important beforehand.
Because if you know that person's will...
Yeah, I guess.
But also, if you knew that someone felt so strongly about it, like now Abu's saying it, and he feels strongly about it. And equally, when I think about it, I think, and actually that sadaqah jariyah point is a really, really important one that I think we sometimes override. The fact that, if God forbid, someone's life was cut short, but I felt that in some way they could almost live on, giving, continuing to benefit, someone through sight or someone through their heartbeat. This is almost like a way of feeling that actually they're still here, present with us, actually. And I think that's really, really wonderful. But also the idea that they're continuing to gain reward in that process.
At least someone's benefiting from it. And
benefiting from it, but also
my
relative is also benefiting from it. So it's, it's got a double...
Can I just add another question here? Would it be different? Sorry, I know you've got to answer as well. Or have
I have.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
And so you're okay.
I said that I think I've got to a place where I think that I would definitely want to.
And what about other family members?
And actually, for me, there has been that sort of notion that actually I think I could continue to leave almost like a legacy with that concept, because we've got to an age where we're sort of constantly thinking about what do we leave behind. This is another way of perhaps.
What about other family members? Would you be just
again? I think that's why these conversations are really important. But if I felt that someone really felt strongly about it,
I think that's a good point. I would respect someone's wishes if they were against it. I wouldn't want to go against. And I think that's why people need to talk about it.
And it'd be very hard to make that decision.
Just be honest, and I think others have to respect your wishes. Then, if you really don't feel that this is comfortable, I think we'd all have to respect that.
Okay, so question 1. How many people's lives can be saved by one donor? Is it A, 3, B, 6, C, 9?
I think C. I think C as well.
I think 9.
No.
And you're all correct. C, 9. 9 people, that's pretty incredible.
There's a lot of different things that can be used.
But so 9 people's lives. So that again, that Quranic verse about saving the life of humanity, it's really powerful. So what percentage of people die in circumstances that make organ donation possible? Is it A, 18%, B, 8%, C, 1%?
I don't get it though, the question. Is the question saying that?
18.
Is the question saying...
So that depending on the circumstances of your death, your organs will either be okay for donation purposes, or they just won't be. You know, so if you were to die of some kidney issue, then actually your kidney won't be in a position to be used. Okay, so how many what percentage of people
can use the organs?
die in circumstances where their organs can be used?
What was
So
the,
is
give us the numbers again?
18%. 18%.
Okay.
Lost it now.
Or
B 8% or C 1%.
I think 8.
18.
I think
I think
8
8 as well.
18.
The middle
So
one.
B, you're going for B.
8.
You said 8?
18.
You
18.
said
18.
8.
Yeah,
18%. Okay. The answer is C.
Oh, 1%.
1%. Just
Oh my gosh.
only
No
1% of people who die in the UK are usually able to be donors.
Wow.
And so it really raises for me the idea that how desperately we need people to be donors, because the chances of you being able to, even the people that have opted in to be in a position to actually use those organs is very, very, very small. Final question. On average, how many more days do people from BAME backgrounds have to wait for a kidney than white patients do? Okay, so on average, how many more days do people from black and minority ethnic backgrounds have to wait for a kidney than white patients? Option A is 135 days, B is 235 days, C is 335 days.
That's a year.
So all of them are pretty high anyway.
I think B or C.
I think C.
I'm going to go for C.
335 days, isn't it? Same.
Go for B just to.
And Zainab has it.
Wow.
But 235
That's a long
days, you know,
time.
it really
Long time.
does raise, you know,
Like
a number of
7, 8
issues.
months, isn't it?
So what do you think we can do really to A, raise awareness in these sorts of communities, and B, you know, encourage people to understand and donate more, or actually be in a position to make these
I
active
think
decisions?
normalising the discussion firstly, because even before we had this, I didn't realise it was like you want to know your people in your family's point of view and what their opinion is on it in case anything did happen. Because I wouldn't have known that, what you guys felt about it. Like even I wouldn't even know what I felt about it really. If you don't normalise that conversation, then I don't think you can even start to debate it really.